What's this? Oh no. No! Oh, you still don't get it! Monster Mash. Monster Mash. Monster Mash! No, I just... No, I don't... Welcome, my friends, to Macabre Menji Shrieks. The time of the Dark Harvest is once again upon us, and when it comes to this channel, that can only mean one thing. Well, two things, actually. If the Halloween season is upon us, then that means it's the first anniversary of this show. Mazel tov. But of course, more importantly, it's once again time to call upon the spirits of ghostly mirth and merriment. O troubadours of the damned, corpsely composers, fill our playlist with funk and horrors. From ravenous rock to hip-hop most foul, give us murderous music from Hades' deepest bowels! Despite my best efforts, it appears that I still have much more work to do spreading the truth about Halloween music. And unlike places like Esquire, I still have plenty to share with you without resorting to 5 different versions of Monster Mash? I mean, seriously! And just like last year, there's enough here to break them down into 4 separate lists. The rules are once again as follows. There will be no obvious songs like Monster Mash or Thriller or anything else you can find on any bargain bin Halloween music compilation. Moreover, most movie or TV themes and scores are far too obligatory, so please save it for the comments. For the uninitiated, allow Igor here to help fill you in on last year's list, because we're gonna just jump right on in. Thank you, Igor. Let's begin.
When you meet the bogeyman.
We've once again found ourselves in my favorite era for spooky music. As I've said before, most music written before the Great War not only had an extra degree of creepiness thanks to the limited recording technology at the time, but any artist who dared write a tune so blasphemous would have to rely mostly on ghost stories passed down to them or on their own twisted imaginations. The original run of Universal Studios' classic monsters would not leave their mark on popular culture until a little later. Despite many now looking back on this era as uptight and overly proper, I think most folks will be quite shocked to hear just how many morbid melodies there are.
When you meet the bogeyman.
I've said it before, if there's one spook you can count on from the old days, it's our good friend the Bogeyman. This time, he's the star of a creepy yet danceable story from jolly old England, courtesy of renowned bandleader Jack Hylton and his orchestra in The Bogey Wail from 1929. The tune already musically alerts you to the coming dread with an excellent startle of wailing brass and then lulls you into a false sense of security with moaning clarinets and strings. It's almost like walking through a haunted house with only your ears to guide you. Then, Much like the stories told round a dying fire, singer Sam Brown begins to recount a tale about an old house, perhaps one not that dissimilar to one near you.
There's a lonely house at which the folks all stand around and stare. And if you ever want to take a look, you'll find an old caretaker there.
In traditional fashion, the decrepit old house has a caretaker who tells of a wailing spirit wandering the halls.
When you step inside, he tells a tale of ghosts that whine and wail, running round about the place at night, and this is how he tells his tale. Oh, hear that bogey wail, up and down the scale, creeping in and out of every room. Bogey wail, what an awful wail, guaranteed to fill your soul with gloom.
While this song was written with the dance halls of the 20s in mind, it still manages to be very spooky, not only with its instrumentations, but also with the aforementioned wailing.
Every night, when you dim the light, you can hear the bogey wail.
Oh my goodness, are you okay? What? Okay. At any rate, cut a rug up and down your haunted house of choice with this creepy classic.
When you meet the boogie woogie boogie man.
Here's a unique classic from a relatively obscure vocal group.
Who's there? Who's there? Up there on the stairs. Beware, beware. I hear somebody coming up on his toes. Oh, look there he goes. Why, Mr. Ghost is going to town.
Mr. Ghost Goes to Town by the Five Jones Boys is an all-a-cappella ditty about a spectral playboy known only as Mr. Ghost. Despite having left his dancing legs 6 feet under, Mr. Ghost is not about to let that stop him from having a dapper night on the town.
He takes his cane, his gloves, and his hat, and like a cat, he hurries down the alley. The moon is bright, and this is the night when Mr. Ghost is going to town.
Not much is known about the Five Jones Boys or the creation of this song. Information about them is as vaporous as Mr. Ghost himself. They do, however, have some notable skills. No, those are not real instruments you're hearing. Like I said, this is an all a cappella, but these Jones boys have perfected the art of musical mimicry. All of their instrumentations lend the song a whimsically spooky vibe.
I'm Mr. Ghost. Tonight I'm going to shake my bones to the tone of them hot saxophones. Mr. Ghost goes to town.
No amount of bodily displacement is gonna keep this creep down. Add a dose of those hot saxophones to your own playlist.
And he can't be late. He's got a date to do a little stepping. He shakes his bones to hot saxophone, 'cause Mr. Ghost is going to town.
When you meet the boogie woogie boogie man.
It's time for a downright classic. There have been many iterations of this song, but Cab Calloway's version of St. James Infirmary is hands down my favorite. This song also has the distinction of bringing Betty Boop back onto the list as well. Max Fleischer was a humongous fan of Calloway's performances and wanted to showcase both his singing and dancing on the big screen. This spawned a collaboration that spanned several animated shorts and featured not only Calloway's unique vocals.
Folks, now here's a story about Minnie the Moocher. She was a red-hot hoochie coocher.
But also captured his on-stage performances by way of rotoscoping, an animation technique that involves tracing frames of live-action video footage to give cartoons more realistic movement. Although it could be argued that this resulted in more surreal movement.
Let her go, oh bless her, wherever she may be. She will search this wide world over, but she'll never find another sweet man like me.
The song has just as interesting a history itself, which seems to date back all the way to the mid to late 1800s in the United Kingdom. The lyrics may have changed slightly throughout the years, but the melody and premise of the song have roughly stayed the same. The singer is narrating about a loved one who has passed away, typically from either disease or drug use, depending on the era, and is observing their body on a table.
Folks, I'm going down to St. James Infirmary. See my baby there, she's stretched out on a long white table. She's so sweet, so calm, so fair.
From there, the narrator begins to plan out how they want their own funeral to proceed, presumably because they know that they're not far behind.
Now when I die, bear me in my straight leg breeches, put on a box back coat and a Stetson hat, put a $20 gold piece on my watch chain so you can let all the boys know I died standing pat.
The singer hopes to go out in style, with riches and droves of people in attendance, most likely in stark contrast to their own low economic standing in life.
Then give me 6 rap-shooting pallbearers. Let a chorus girl sing me a song. Put a red hot jazz band in the top man so we can raise hallelujah as we go along.
What this has to do with a ghost, an ice witch, and Snow White is beyond me, but hey, that's Fleischer cartoons for you.
When you meet the boogie woogie boogie man.
I sure hope you have tissues, Andy, 'cause things are about to get very depressing. Gloomy Sunday is another one of those songs with a bit of a history. Originally written in Hungary by pianist and composer Rezo Seres in 1933, this song's title translated to "The World is Ending" and was meant to be a mournful ballad about the despair of war. In the States, it was simply known as the Hungarian Suicide Song. Soon after, however, different arrangements began to spring up, with the subject matter straying away from the topic of war, and instead dealing with the crushing sorrow over the death of a loved one. My favorite rendition of these is recorded by Paul Whiteman and his orchestra in 1936.
Sunday is gloomy, my hours are slumberless.
Dearest, the shadows I live with are numberless.
Throughout the song, you can really feel all the instruments weeping and moaning. There is no amount of joy to be found.
Angels have no thought of ever returning you. Would they be angry if I thought of joining you? Gloomy Sunday.
The singer does an amazing job of sounding like he's on the verge of tears. And of course, especially for the time, a song considering something as horrific as suicide must have caused quite a stir.
My heart and I have decided to end it all. Soon there'll be candles and prayers that are sad, I know. Let them not weep, let them know that I'm glad to go.
There is also a much more famous version by the bae of her day, Billie Holiday, but she opted to take the safe route and tack on an "it was all just a dream" ending.
Darling, I hope that my dream never haunted you. My heart is telling you how much I wanted you. Gloomy Sunday.
But for Paul Whiteman, there's no happy ending here.
Death is no dream, for in death I'm caressing you. With the last breath of my soul, I'll be blessing you. Gloomy Sunday.
If you're looking for a song to dive deep into the inky black pits of death and despair, this is it.
When you meet the boogie woogie bogeyman.
So, how about a much more peppier song about death?
One time there lived an old man with a very crooked nose. He lived inside a log cut and they called him Old Man Mose.
Well, 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 if it isn't our old friend Mose. I told you we'd be seeing more of him. So, I did a bit more digging, and it seems that some references could be attributed to a character from the classic comic strip Lil Abner that occasionally showcased a character named Old Man Mose. Where things get foggy is that Lil Abner began in 1934, while this song, Old Man Mose, was originally written by Louis Armstrong in 1935. That would only give at most a year for the character to be introduced into the strip and for Satchmo to then become a fan and write a song about it. While the similarities are striking, such as the comic strip Mose refusing to literally kick the bucket outside of his cave. He lived in a cave. Did I mention that?
He kicked the bucket. Wait, Billy. He kicked the bucket and Old Man Mose is dead.
Song Mose also lives in a log cabin rather than a cave. Things get even further muddied when, if we assume that this song is basically a prequel to Mysterious Mose, well, that predates Lil Abner by 4 years.
You so believe.
Old man,
I do believe.
Old man,
You so believe.
old man.
That Old Man Mose is dead. Oh.
So, Mose remains as mysterious as ever. Not to snub old Pops, but my favorite version is from this short film by song and dance queen Betty Hutton and Vincent Lopez and his orchestra.
I went round to the window and I peeked into a crack. Inside there was an old man lying flat upon his back. I thought that he was sleeping, cut sand-tongue to the floor. I didn't hear a single sound and I ain't gonna do it no more.
It certainly has the most energy out of all the versions I've heard, and... excuse me, what? Madam, I dare say this may be a Halloween show, but do please watch your tongue. Some of us are trying to get monetized.
Old Man Mose is dead.
We found out.
Madam,
We found out.
How Mose kicked the bucket.
madam,
He kicked the bucket.
madam, control
Old Man
yourself,
Mose is
please!
dead.
Well, there's no denying this song will certainly bring out the crazies in you.
When I opened up the door, skeleton jumped up from the floor and said that old man Mose is dead.
Thanks for watching. Links to all songs I've talked about can be found below. And if I've piqued your curiosity even a little, why not come down to Halloween Town on plug.dj, a social music site where you can hang out with other Halloween music enthusiasts, DJ music for each other, and maybe even make some cool new friends, all while listening to a whole lot more great Halloween time music. Halloween Town has been operating every October, all month long for over 5 years now. So come check it out, if you dare. Links in the description. That was just corny. I'm sorry.